Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate it, and thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you today. Some of the things I'm going to share with you are about money for college. So everyone's on different paths and at different stages, but what I want to do today is just plant seeds, right? Just give you different ideas, different thoughts on things to look for in the future, right? Most of this stuff I didn't know. Coming up through middle school, high school, and even college, I didn't know a lot of this stuff. So the things that I've learned over the years, I've worked in higher ed, meaning working in college settings for almost 20 years. Okay, and I've worked in like vocational technical schools, so those that were looking to go into those type of industries, and traditional four-year schools, as well as working with adult educators, so those who are in their professions, going back for their higher education degrees, but they were working full-time. I've worked in those type of institutions as well. So what I want to do is I want to share a little bit about my experiences, my personal experiences, and things that I've working with thousands of students, literally, over the years, some of the things that I picked up on that they have success with and things that they didn't have as much success with, right? Even my personal story, I've done a lot of things wrong, right? So I don't want you to think that I've always had it figured out. Look, I had most of the stuff wrong, and so that's what I want to do today. So let's go into it. So this is a little bit about my, some of the organizations and businesses that I work with. I have a book. And so I met many of you on the Zoom earlier this year. And so it's good to see you in person. And some of you who I haven't met yet, it's a pleasure to meet you. If you don't already have at least a digital copy of the book, I'll make sure everybody here has a digital copy, because it really goes in detail with some of the stuff that I'll be talking about today, okay? So a little bit about my story. I went to school. I was coming up, my only personal finance strategies or education I had was go to school, get good grades, get a high-paying job. And that was all I was taught. And then I thought things couldn't get better, but things did get better in life, because I ended up getting this high-paying corporate job working for this billion-dollar company. You know those private jets, Gulfstream? You ever heard of G5s, G6, like the private jets? So I was a project analyst for that company. And so at the time, I was working for that company when my son was born, and I left to go to the hospital because my wife was about to have the baby. And my supervisor, she found out, she called me, she said, "Congratulations, Chris, on your brand new baby boy." And then the next sentence really took a shock to me because she said, "But unfortunately, we gotta let you go." Right, just like that. I mean, emotions were all over the place, because I was like, life couldn't get better. I had this corporate job. I followed the rules. I went to school, got the high-paying job, right? Everything is working out. But then all of a sudden, it was me and 1,200 other people. They were like, "Economic times are bad. You're a great guy. You did great work, but we got to let you go," right? And so one of the things I want to instill is that even if you have a great job, especially one that you love and you have a passion for, I want you to think outside the box of that being your only source of income, so that if you're ever hit with a situation like this, you have other ideas or other things in place, even if it at minimum is having an emergency fund. And you'll learn more about that as we go through the presentation. But having money set aside, we talked about it in this exercise, right? With different things coming up, like really severe situations that come up in life, it's not like you're gonna be stuck. Because when I had that job, all the savings and everything I had was going into getting cribs and baby clothes and everything I could get for my child, because I was like, I make a lot of money, relatively speaking. So if I make a lot of money, that just solves all my money problems. And if I spend all my money, I'll just get it back next week and the week after. But then when I lost the job, that money dried up. And my wife wasn't working. And so here I was without a job. And then it was like 2 years. I was unemployed for 11 months within that 2-year span. And so I had to figure stuff out, right? And so to make matters worse, there was an apartment fire in our building. And so the girl across the hall, she left the stove on, she went out partying or something, left the stove on, the whole building, you can go to the next one too, the whole building went up in flames. And then remember how in the exercise you had to pay that $30 for renter's insurance, right? I was like, I'm responsible, I don't need to pay $30 for renter's insurance, why would I do that? And I didn't pay it. So now if I had renter's insurance, right, we talked about the importance of having insurance, then if I had an itemized list of everything that I had in my house, they would at least given me the money to buy those things again. But I didn't have anything. So I literally didn't have any money. All my clothes and possessions, everything was destroyed. The thing that really hurt me the most is that all the personal things like pictures and videos from high school, and like this is before social media, right? So I couldn't just upload it in the cloud and I have it forever. Like I had camcorders and physical pictures, and wedding pictures and all this other stuff that I feel couldn't be replaced. Like stuff will come and go. Like you can always replace it. So don't put all of your trust and faith in your things. That can always be replaced, right? But cherish those things that really typically don't cost money. Those memories, those relationships, those are the things that really matter in life, okay? And I had student loans in college, right? I got scholarships, but then when I got to college, number one, I didn't continue applying for scholarships while I was in school. I just thought that was something you did in high school. And when I got to college, I would be good. But what I found working with students over all these years is a lot of students just stop applying for scholarships and then they end up having to drop out because they're not getting any more scholarships. But then if you just continue the habits of getting scholarships, which we'll talk about today, if you continue those habits, you'll get money every single year, okay? And so I had the student loans, and then that's kind of what took me on that mission and that path to help people like you never have to take out a student loan, okay? Regardless of your situation, background, or story, there's money out there for you, okay? And so these are some of the things we'll talk about today: how to find the money, talking about scholarships, employment opportunities. So if you're going to college, even in high school, there are things you could do to earn money, okay? Side hustles, passive income streams, even as a young person. Some people think, oh, I can't get money until I'm much older. But there are young people that are making like life-changing income just with their ideas and thoughts, okay? Or even if you want to get into something of service, right? Like there's certain things you could do to make impact in your community and things. And there are people that have money that are willing to support your cause just if you have the idea, right? And some of you have already started that because I've been looking at some of your stories, and some of you are already doing that, which is great. Budgeting and managing the money, we'll talk about budgeting strategies, credit if we have time, growing the money, and millionaire by 50 strategy. So if you want to be a millionaire before 50, there's a strategy we'll go over today. Passive income strategies, and we'll get over as much as possible today. So scholarships, let's go into that. All right, so we talked about it in the last presentation. This number's gone up. So it's $1.77 trillion, right? Like $1 million is a lot of money, right? But then 100 of those, 999 million equals 1 billion, right? And then 999 billion plus 1 equals $1 trillion. So that's how much in student loan debt, meaning people had to take out loans to pay it back that we're in. So let's talk about the actual cost for college. And this is laying the groundwork to understand how this whole thing works. Because even when I used to work in financial aid, you'll find parents, grandparents, and students like, all right, I wasn't expecting this big bill. I didn't know it was going to cost this much. I don't have the money. And then usually in the financial aid, they say, well, you could take out a loan. They just say it easy because that's what people typically say. Just borrow money, right? So let's go. Tuition. You can skip through all of this. These are all the direct costs and indirect costs to go to school. Tuition. How many know what tuition is? Show of hands. All right, perfect. For those that don't know, that's just the cost to pay for classes, all right? And the fees, room and board, where you stay on campus, and your meals. These are the things you have to pay for when you go to school. So how many of you have an idea or know where you want to go to college? Show of hands. Okay, that's good. Now, if you already know, do you know how much it costs per year to go to that school yet? How much? It is, yeah, because I'm working with a student. Let's give him a hand. That's good, right? And that's awesome that you know that, right? So now you're like, okay, it's $48,000 a year. Let's just round it up to 50. So if he's getting a 4-year degree, how much is that going to be for him for 4 years? 200,000, right? Yeah, you said, whoa, right? Yeah, so now you have a number in your head like, okay, I need $200,000 for this degree. Typically, people are going to say, take out a student loan, and then usually with federal loans, you can't even get that much. So then they're like, take out a private student loan, and then that'll pay for it. Because then if you don't already have the money saved up or that amount in scholarships, that's your only go-to. So my goal for today is to make sure you never even have to think about student loans, okay? And that's not the typical, thought process for going to school. Everybody's just like, oh, you have to take out student loans. After this presentation, no. So you're not even gonna have to take out a loan for that $200,000, okay? And for those that raise your hands, if you don't know how much it costs, find out how much it costs to go to school. That way you can start planning now. Especially those that are in middle school, ninth grade, like you have a lot of time to where you can gradually start putting money away or applying for these scholarships. Forbes magazine, they did an article, they highlighted the research. There's over $100 million in scholarships that go unclaimed each year, and that number's rising. So this isn't money that you're applying for these scholarships and they're telling you no or denying. This is just free money sitting out there that nobody's applying for. One of my students that I work with, she was about to apply for this scholarship. She was like, I probably won't get it. And they were giving out 3 $500 scholarships. And you might think $500 is enough, but you get 10 of those, that's $5,000, right? But it was three people that were going to give $500 to. Guess what? Nobody applied for it except for one guy. So they just gave him the whole $1,500 because nobody else applied. And there's scholarships like that always happen. But even if you feel like you're not going to get it, just apply for it anyway. Because if she would apply for it and she was the worst person or the worst qualified to apply for that, she still would have received the money because she's the only one that applied for it. Yeah, good question. And if you have any questions as I'm going through this, raise your hand and tell me, okay? Because I want to make sure I'm answering any questions that you have, okay? Yes. Yes, 100%, absolutely. So there's scholarships that you can apply for as early as literally kindergarten, okay? But then you get more scholarship opportunities to apply for as you get older. So yes, you can. And the way the scholarships typically work is they just have money set aside for you. So whenever you choose to go to college or whatever college you want, they'll just say, oh, we have this money earmarked for you to go to whatever school you want to, right? And especially for those organizations that have been around for a while, you know they'll still be around by the time you get to, go to school. Because some business will pop up, pop down. You'll be like, hey, remember 6 years ago you had that scholarship for me? They'd be like, oh, we're not in business anymore, right? But typically, they'll have that money for you. So that's a great question. We'll actually go over some where you can be as young as, 13 years old in this presentation. Yeah. So that's a great question. Typically, they don't give the money to you. They'll just hold it on reserve, and then when you decide which school you're going to, then you tell them, and they'll send it to the school, and then they'll put it on your account. And a lot of them, they don't even require that you go to a specific school. They just say, as long as you're going to a college. So let's say you don't want to go the traditional 4-year college route, and you want to go to a technical school, right? Let's say you want to get, they call them trades, right? Let's say if you want to go into a specific area and just learn that skill and get certified in it. Then if it's a vocational school or a technical school, a lot of times they'll give you money to go there as well, okay? But typically it's for the 4-year, but they do have it to where as long as you're going to an accredited school, meaning like they pass a checklist of schools like that, they'll give you the money. So that's a great question. So scholarship resources. So these are some of the scholarship resources that some of my students use, and these are more national. What you want to do is, I just posted this on Instagram. It's called the inside out method. Start with your low competition scholarships. Remember how I said there was only one guy that applied for that scholarship? Apply for scholarships in your local neighborhood. There are local organizations, businesses that will that will put scholarships out there. If you go to the local school districts in this area and look for scholarships that they have listed on their website, apply for those, because sometimes it might be 5, 10 students that apply for those scholarships, and now you increase your chances for getting it. Okay, so all your local community foundations, if there are community foundations in your neighborhood, apply for those scholarships on that list, okay? Because now the competition is smaller and you're increasing your possibilities for getting that scholarship, okay? Because these right here, they usually post the national scholarships. And for example, like Taco Bell Foundation last year, it was 14,000 students that applied for that scholarship. Now they do offer hundreds of scholarships per year with that, but it's probably a little bit more competitive. Does that make sense, y'all? Okay, so now, and then we talked about Scholarly, right? I'm gonna see, I think I have a slide in here talking about Christopher Gray as well, so that was good that you brought it up. Next slide. And Live My. So Taco Bell Scholarship. Who could use an extra $100,000, right? Okay, $100,000. Taco Bell, each year they give at least 5 students $25,000 a year to go to school. all you got to do is just make a video. You just make a video about your passions and what you want to do. You don't even have to have your GPA listed, and you don't have to write an essay. You could just talk about something that you're doing to give back or make impact. And with this one, I believe you only have to be 16 years old or older to apply for it. How many are at least 16 in here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, perfect. So if that's a scholarship, you can go ahead and apply for it now. And if you don't get that, then they have a $10,000. They give over 75 students $10,000 each, and then a number of $5,000 each. All right, let's go over the 5 essential essays. And then what we'll do, because of time, I'm not going to go into too much detail for this, but it's in the book, and then I'll probably send you a link of a video that goes in more detail about these scholarships, okay? But real quick, these are pretty much the only essays that you'll need for 90 to 95% of the scholarships that you apply for. Most of the students that I work with, they don't apply for scholarships because they don't want to write essays. Like, be honest with me. How many don't feel like writing all those scholarship essays? Like, be honest. You can be honest, right? Exactly, most of you. And that's how it is with the students that I work with, right? They're like, I don't want to write all those essays. So if you just focus on these 5, or really 4, the wild card is like, I'll tell you what that is in a second. But your rags to riches essay. These are your essays where you're talking about some type of obstacle or challenge that you've had to face and how you've overcome it. Or despite this circumstance. It could be something inward or something external. Despite this thing, I was able to do this, or I was able to succeed. Yes. Yes, I do. That's what I'm going to give to everybody. So you'll have a digital copy of this. Great question. And so this is how you show scholarship organizations and committees how you'll be resilient or how you'll be able to push through. Because the truth of the matter is, when a lot of students go to college, a lot of them drop out. They don't come back because of it's either tough or they have situations where it's just overbearing, and you'll find a lot of them, they just don't push through. But if you can show the organizations that no matter what, you're going to push through and you're going to reach your goal, then they're more likely to give you the money when they're looking for that. They'll ask questions like, name a challenge that you had and how you overcame it. Or name something where you had to show, that's it. Like, how were you faced with a challenge and what did you do to overcome it? Okay? Now, your impact leadership. Everybody in here is doing some type of impact or doing some type of community service or something where they're giving back to their community. Document that. Some of you just have the heart to just give and be a part and serve, right? But I want you to start documenting it, writing it down. Tell your story, okay? Because some of you are just like, I just do that. I don't need any credit. I'll just keep it going. But a lot of people want to see that part of your story, okay? And if you document it, then it'll show other scholarship donors to believe in what you're doing and want to donate to it, okay? What will you do with the money? How will this money benefit you? What will you do with the money? If somebody's going to give you $20,000, could you tell me exactly what you would do with that $20,000? You would take it. You'd be like, here, I'll come over. Exactly. But I want you to start thinking of these things ahead of time so that when you're asked the question, you don't have to think about it. And then your major career goals. So if you don't already know, start thinking about what your interests are. What do you want to do in life? Okay? Why do you want to get into this field in the first place? And it should be something outside of it makes a lot of money. Because if you put, I want to become this and go into this field because it makes a lot of money, you're probably not going to get the scholarship. Right? But then if you're talking about ways that this career or this goal has been something that you've always dreamed about because of X, Y, Z. For example, one of my students I work with, she wanted to become a nurse. I said, well, why do you want to become a nurse? She said, because my mama works at the hospital. I said, oh. I said, okay, well, we might have to switch that. We might have to think of a reason why. I said, all right, tell me this. Have you ever been hospitalized for anything? And she was like, yeah, I was in a major car accident. I was terrified out of my mind and everything. I said, okay, well, let's start with that. I said, was there anybody in the hospital that made you feel calm when you were scared like that? She said, the nurse. She came by. She told me everything that was going on. She held my hand. She made me feel so calm. I said, how did that change for you after that experience? She said, I wasn't scared anymore. She said, that's one of the reasons, now that I think about it, why I wanted to become a nurse, because she took that fear away and she made me feel comfortable, and now I want to do that for others. I said, you see how that changed from I want to become a nurse because my mom works in a hospital versus how the nurse treated me when I was at the hospital, when I was so terrified and afraid, changed how I viewed nurses. And now I want to be able to do the same for others going through that experience. You see how the story changed? And it wasn't a lie. It was something that she really did. But it went down to the why she wants to do that. Does that make sense? So always think about the why behind your story. One thing I like to tell people is facts tell, stories sell. Facts tell, stories sell. And don't worry about, I mean, you want to make sure it's good grammar and all the punctuation and everything is in there good, but you're not going to be giving your scholarship applications or essays to a bunch of English professors at a college campus. They're probably going to be regular, everyday people that just want to give back, right? And so they're looking at your story that's just like, I remember your story. And here's another thing. Imagine if you're a scholarship committee member and you're reading your essay and you have to read 1,000 essays. Would you give yourself the money? If you read the essay and you're like, probably not, then you want to reevaluate some things in your story that makes you memorable, okay? All right, and the last one is a wild card. That's just something that you typically see that's not one of these four. So you'll find a lot of scholarship prompts saying, how do you think artificial intelligence is going to change the future? Or during the pandemic, now that everything is virtual, how does that change the way everything is done in the world now, right? Something like that. Or another one, auto injury. A lot of law attorney offices, and you'll go on like scholarship platforms like Scholarly, and they'll ask you, what is the importance of driver safety? Like I'll see at least 20 to 30 law injury attorneys offices from across, or firms from across the country that'll ask that same prompt because they just want to know, okay, what's the importance of driver safety? If you already have these essays, you'll put them in Google Drive in the cloud and you'll always have it. This is the hardest part, usually when I talk to students, this is the hardest part of doing scholarship essays, okay? So far, show of hands, does that make sense to everyone? Yes? Good. All right, next one. Now here's a 1-2 punch. And the reason why I'm going through this framework and foundation is because I want you to understand how it works overall. So 10x your cost. Perfect. So $48,000, right? $48,000 a year for Howard. And what's your name? Harper. So let's take Harper for example. He wants to go to Howard. It's $48,000 a year. So each year, if he's 10x your cost, you can go to the next point, you're going to apply for that amount in scholarships every year. So if the annual cost in this example is $30,000, next one, then you're going to apply for $300,000 in scholarships. So Harper, each year, especially as it gets closer to graduation, so like your junior year, you'll probably find a longer list of scholarships that you're eligible to apply for. And then especially your senior year. Maybe not yet, but there are a few out there that you could still apply for and lock your money in. But in your example, it'll be $480,000 that you're applying for each year. And I'll tell you why in a second. So once you're applying for $480,000 a day, a year, then you have the 2-a-day method. You can go down. This is where you take your 5 essential essays and you'll put them in Google Drive. Now that you have them in the cloud, the thought process or all the hard work is already done and out the way for you. This is what takes the most time. After that, it's just wash, rinse, and repeat. Yes? Right on, and you already ahead of me. That's excellent. Yes, it's just wash, rinse, and repeat, and using the same one. You'll probably modify it just a bit, like who you're sending it to. And then here's another tip. Most of the websites and organizations that you're applying to the scholarship for, they usually have a tab on their website called missions and values, right? So now you know what the organization stands for or what they believe in. If there's anything in your story that resonates with their missions and values, bring that out. Talk about it. So those are the things that you'll add, like who you're sending to. But other than that, most of the scholarship essay is already going to have the main parts about you. You're going to start with the hook. Don't say this quote and the reason I'm applying for this scholarship, whatever. Like, get them on the first sentence, right? So, for example, with the nursing situation, right, she could start off by saying, I was terrified. I was in the hospital because I was just involved in a major car accident. Whoa. I'm paying attention now. What happened next, right? These are real people. You ever binge watch a show? And you just go through, like, you want to watch the next episode. You're like, what's about to happen next? Those are the kind of things that you want to have in your essay that really captivates them and remember. Now, if they read through all those essays, the whole scholarship committee, even if they don't remember her name, they'll say, remember the girl that was in the car accident and wants to be a nurse? Now she's memorable, and now people are going to remember your story, okay? And that's what you want to become. You want to become memorable, all right? And then if you apply for 2 scholarships a day, right? So today is what, the 17th? August 17th. If you apply for 2 scholarships a day just by doing this method, because you could do 2 a day, and that only takes maybe 30 minutes. Do 2 scholarships a day. It's August 17th. By September 17th and October 17th, if you do 2 a day, that's 60 days. How many scholarships have you applied for now? 120 scholarships. And most students, they get burned out at 15 and 20 scholarships applied for. And they're like, I've done more than enough. I don't need to apply for any more. But everybody that I work with that's applied for at least 100 qualifiable scholarships, meaning like you qualify to apply for those scholarships, they apply for 10 times the amount, they end up getting scholarships, okay? And so the next slide, let me show you. So this slide isn't on there, but one thing I want to tell you is that most of the scholarships you apply for, you'll get denied. You will not get most of the scholarships you apply for, all right? And that's the truth. So now, that's why we have to go in volume, because if you apply for 10 times the amount you need, and you're applying for 100 scholarships, if you apply for $480,000, and all you need is $48,000, you can get denied 90% of the time and only have a 10% success rate, and you still have more than enough to pay for college. Show of hands if that makes sense to you, right? Because then if you need $48,000 and you're applying for $48,000 and you get a 10% success rate of that, you're only getting $4,000 or $5,000, $4,800, right? And if you're getting $5,000 and you need, $50,000, you still need $45,000 to pay for school. And you're like, where am I going to get $45,000 from? But then if you already go in with the expectation like, okay, let me get used to a no. Anybody that's done anything great, they get used to the no's and the rejections because they know they're one step closer to a yes, okay? And if you get over that fear of rejection, that's in life, you won't be afraid for the ask. You won't be afraid to take a leap of faith and get the result that you're looking for, because you're going to continue making those steps, asking those questions, and getting feedback. Here's another step that I work with my students and I tell them to do. If they get told no, go to the scholarship committee and shoot them an email. Thank you for having this opportunity for students like me. Is there any feedback you can give me on my essay or anything that you can show me that can help improve my essay the next time I submit an application, or any feedback in general? Many times they'll say, your essay was too short, or you didn't go into enough detail, or it was too long, or you didn't elaborate enough. But now you have constructive feedback to where you can improve the very next time. And so if you do that every time, starting from 1 to 100, by the time you get to that 100th tweak, now your essays are 100 times better, okay? And you're getting feedback from all these different people. Make sense? Okay, employment opportunities. Let's talk about that. So for those that are getting, how many seniors do we have? I know we have a couple seniors, right? So if you're going off to college, there are ways that you can actually offset the cost of attendance even if you're staying on campus as well, okay? So if you're staying on campus and you're a resident assistant, that means you work in the dorm or the residence hall. That's what they call it now. You work in the residence hall, and a lot of times that'll just pay for your housing. So you have your tuition costs, and then you have your housing. Yes? So that's a great question. Sometimes it's cheaper to stay off campus, but then when you have all of the other costs like your groceries and all these other things that you have to manage with utilities, and if you're transporting yourself back and forth to school, how are you doing it? Remember we talked about the public transportation versus your own car? Like all of these other things factor in. And if this is your first time on your own, it doesn't always work out like that, right? So it's, in my opinion, I would recommend staying on campus unless you're staying with like a family member, right? Because if you're staying rent-free and they're taking care of all those food expenses, it might be more cost efficient to just stay off campus with a family member. 100%. First year, second year. So if you're a freshman coming in, some of them require, like if you're a freshman, you have to stay on campus, okay? But if you're asking my advice or recommendation, I would advise you to stay on campus. And then another reason is because you get more involved and immersed in the campus culture. And then usually you'll find like people you can gain relationships with, build a family, and then that usually shows retention. Like the students who are more involved on campus usually stay longer. But if you feel like you're on an island on your own, you don't have any connections, no relationships, you're like, why am I even here? And those are the students that typically don't even come back because they don't feel a sense of belonging, right? So then if you find people you could connect with, at least one person, and sometimes it may start with your roommate. It may start with your roommate and you gain a relationship with them, and then it's like you have lifelong friends, friends that you'll have for life, okay? So for those that are getting ready to college, just consider that, right? Especially if you don't have enough where the scholarship's taking care of everything, and you get paid. So they'll take care of your housing costs, and you can get paid on top of that, right? Another thing, if you're good on a subject, you can be a virtual tutor. So you could just pick the hours you want to work, and let's say you're a whiz at math. There are people from across the country that need help with math. Or if English was a second language, right, then there are people that English is their native language, and then they can help people from around the world learn English, And sometimes you can get paid more or less depending on, who it is you're helping or what platform. And you probably know a lot of those platforms too, right? Working with students and teaching language. What's that? Yeah, come talk to her afterwards, right? That might be something that you could do. And sometimes they don't even have an age limit. You can start as early as teens and as a teenager in some moments. A mentor, department assistant, so you can work in your field. All right, next slide. Okay, so before we talk about money, how money works, budgeting, and passive income, all of that stuff, does anybody have any questions regarding scholarships, college, paying for college? Because this stuff will help you pay for college too, but are there any questions about scholarships more specifically, or anything that I've gone over so far? Yes. Non-traditional students, yes. Absolutely. Yes, 100%, 1,000%. No matter what stage you're at in the game, you can always go back in their scholarships. The only requirement is that you have a high school diploma in a lot of instances, which you do, and you already have your associates, and they're just like, and you're going to major in this, or you're going to an accredited school, and that's it. And then you could just go on any of those platforms that I mentioned before, and then I can send them to you as well. But if you go to those platforms, you put in your credentials, now the scholarships are finding you, okay, based on the information that you put. So some students, they don't apply for scholarships because they don't know where to find them. They were like, this is my situation, where do I find the money? Right? And then you can even start locally too, right? There's some foundations that say, oh, you qualify. Some of those foundation scholarships and local scholarships, they're specific for maybe high school juniors and seniors and current college students. And if you're a current college student or you get accepted into one, you can get those scholarships too, okay? So that's a great question. Any other questions about scholarships or college? Yes. Yes, absolutely. So there's a website, for example, called ProFellow. All right, that's one. ProFellow is specifically for graduate students. So when you're a graduate student, after you get your 4-year degree, then they typically don't call them scholarships anymore. They call them fellowships because usually it's tied to something with the major, but then ProFellow is one. And then even if you go to Scholly, so I didn't have the slide, but like you were saying earlier, Christopher Gray, he was homeless when he was in high school. His junior year, senior year, there were parts of his high school moments where he was homeless. And then he was from Birmingham, Alabama, and he said the only way he can get out of the situation is if he goes to college and gets a degree. So that's why he would spend nights in his bed on his phone applying for scholarships, or he'd go to the library, apply for scholarships. And that's how he got that $1.3 million in scholarships. He got the Gates Foundation scholarship, and he ended up going to Drexel University, met a couple partners, and like you said, went to Shark Tank, and then the rest was history. Fast forward, Scholly was just acquired or purchased by Sallie Mae. So now Scholly is a free app. It used to cost money, now it's free. And that's one of the websites you could put in your information and it'll go and find those scholarships for you. Now, Sallie Mae that owns Scholly, you could put your graduate status in that. So if you're getting a master's degree, any of that, it'll go and find the scholarships for you too. And that's another thing. If you all are interested in, they call them SaaS, software as a service. You could just have an idea for a software. Like on the way here, I was talking to Matthew, and we were just talking about software development. And you could just have the idea, and then you could just pay somebody to be the coder, pay somebody to do the user interface, and then now you own your own software. And there's more steps to that. But a lot of times people don't even think they can own the software because they're like, I don't know coding. I don't know how to do design. People are skilled in those areas. You could just have the idea, and then now you own the software. Because Christopher Gray didn't know coding, so he didn't do all the coding. He just learned about the entrepreneurship side and the salesman side, and he partnered with a coder. And then they built Scholly, okay? So don't think because you don't have a certain skill that your idea can't come to life. That's where you build a team, and then you grow from there. All right, so let's switch gears to budgeting. Budgeting. Here's a definition of budget. This is a budgetnista. So she's someone that I'll message a lot, and she'll give me advice and things like that. She has her own show on Netflix, New York Times bestseller. Like, she's done interviews with Oprah and everything like that. And she was just invited to the White House to do some things. So she's really cool, right? And she's from New York, and she wrote a book called Good with Money, and she called herself the Budgetnista, right? And so she said a budget is a physical plan of what your money is doing. So when I was young and I had that almost six-figure job, I didn't have a budget. I was just like, if I spend all my money, I'll just get it again next Thursday. I got paid every Thursday. So I was getting paid double the amount that I was getting in my job before that. So I figured as long as I have a lot of money, I won't have any money problems. But then I wasn't putting anything away for savings. I didn't have an emergency fund. I didn't have any of that stuff that I know now. And then when I got hit with the fire and the layoff, which I didn't think would happen to me because I was like, I followed the rules. I did everything I was supposed to do. That won't happen to somebody like me. And then it did, right? And so like my wife and I, we were living out of this blue tub for several months until we got back on our feet. So here I was, successful, have this corporate job, everything, and then lost everything. And now we have like 2 pairs of clothes each living out of this blue tub until we could get back on our feet. Us and this newborn baby, right? And then her parents were able to clear out a spare bedroom that we lived out of till we got out on our feet. And so that's why this is so important, because life can life. You know, life is life. And life can happen at any given moment unexpectedly, and it's about how you prepare yourself financially to take care of these things. So if you're hit with it, it's not really going to affect you because you can adjust, right? So next one. So we went over this with the parents, but this is called the cash flow quadrant. Anybody ever heard of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad? Any of the kids? You have? Okay, perfect. So there's a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's by Robert Kiyosaki. And his dad was a superintendent of schools, and he was told, go to school, get good grades, get a high-paying job, and you'll be good. You'll be good. But his rich dad, who ended up being a superintendent of schools, he got fired from his job, and then in his later years, he didn't have any money to show for it. His best friend's dad barely graduated from grade school, but he surrounded himself with a money team, and he became the richest man in Hawaii, right? So one thing I want you to understand is I want you to see if you could separate your money from the thing that you want to do in life, right? Because a lot of time we're taught to tie our money to our job, and that's it. But then if you can have other sources of income growing for you outside of your job, then now if your job, going back to the original thing I said, some people just get a job because it pays a lot, right? But if you're just going for a job because it pays a lot, you're going to get burnt out, tired, and you're going to be like, why am I even in this thing? Like, I don't have any passion for it. I want you to get a job or go into a field because you love it. You have a passion for it or the skills that it's going to teach you. Does that make sense? I want you to be able to do that so that if you would do it for free for the next 5 years, you would do it. And if you get paid on it, then that's a bonus, right? So that's one side. But now I want you to see how money works. If you're an employee, that means you're tied to a job. So let me tell you about this example. We talked about McDonald's in the last situation. If you work at McDonald's and you flip burgers, you're on fries, you get $10 an hour, and you work an 8-hour shift, how much are you getting paid that day? $80 gross, right? $80. Now, you're the best person in the company, but let's say your coworker is the worst person in McDonald's history. Guess how much they're getting paid? $80, right? Because the boss says this is how much you all are getting paid. So sometimes your performance isn't equal to the amount you get paid. Like, you could be the hardest worker, but then your money's not going up. But your money is tied for your money is tied to your time. So you say, you know what? I'm going to have my own side hustle. I'm going to make my own money. So I'm going to do nails, or I'm going to make wigs, or I'm going to do T-shirts, or I'm going to cut a yard by myself. Now you can say, I'm going to charge $100 per wig, right? I don't know why I'm talking about making wigs, but $100 per wig, but now you're getting paid to make wigs, right? Or do nails or whatever, right? Now you could charge $100. So if you do 10 heads in a month, 10 wigs in a month, and you're getting paid $100 a wig, how much you getting paid? $1,000, right? You're like, okay. But then it takes you a lot of time, and now the only thing you're able to do every day is make wigs, right? So now, even though you're making more money than you were at McDonald's, but now your money is tied to your time, so now it's like, I don't have time for anything else. Yes? Yes, that's a great example because we talked about that before. Remember the cost difference for if you don't have insurance versus insurance? Like those things are important. Now there's certain things like SEPs and let me break it down simple. You can pay for private insurance. So let's say if you have your own company or job that you run yourself, you can have insurance, private insurance. It costs more typically, but you can find it where if something ever happens, you don't have to pay a big price for that insurance. So that's a great question, okay? Let's stick with the McDonald's thing. So you work for McDonald's. Let's say you want to open up your own hamburger stand. Now you're charging $25 a burger, and you got the best burgers, right? And you're like, everybody loves my burgers. I'm making the best burgers, right? But then now you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week to run your business, and now you're getting tired because you're not making any money unless you show up to make those burgers, right? So Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, he said, why don't you take this system of making burgers and put it on every major intersection around the world, and we'll call it McDonald's. Do you think Ray Kroc was going to every single McDonald's in the world flipping burgers? No. He had people and systems in place that he created one time, and now is paying them over and over again without his presence. The main difference between self-employed and business owner is that you're taking yourself out of the equation and your money's still growing. So if you don't do anything else, you have people running your business, so you can hire a manager to run it or somebody else. Or one of the things I talk about in the book is a lemonade stand. One summer, Little Susie works for a lemonade stand, and she makes a certain amount of money per hour. Then she opens up her own lemonade stand, and then she said, you know what? I'm going to find my cousin to run the lemonade stand for me. Now she opens up 10 lemonade stands around the city, and she puts all her friends to run the lemonade stands for her, and she removes herself from the lemonade stand, calls it Little Susie's Lemonade, LLC, right? And now, how much work is Little Susie doing? Nothing, right? But she's making money off of the lemonade stand she's running just because she sees how to create a system. Does that make sense? Okay. And then now, if she wanted to partner with Whole Foods or any of these big chain grocery stores, she can have her lemonade in there. If you YouTube like kid entrepreneurs or kid millionaires, like sometimes they just create it and they have the systems paying it for them. So they might partner with a grocery store, and now they have a license to where it's paying them for life. Next slide, please. Oh, go back one. If you don't remember anything else today about money, everybody say assets. Everybody say liabilities. Okay. Remember this. Assets put money in your pocket. Assets do what? Liabilities take money out of your pocket. They do what? Okay. So if you want to grow wealth, you need to have your money working harder for you than you work for it. So everybody heard of stocks before? Everybody heard of real estate investing before? Okay? These are just simple things that people do to have their money working harder for them. We talked about business, but then there are ways you could do it long term, right? And we'll talk about that if we have time to go over the investment part. But if you want to live a certain lifestyle, instead of you paying for your lifestyle with the money you're working hard for, put money in your assets and grow your asset column to where your assets, those investments, are paying for your lifestyle, okay? All right, next slide. Okay, so let's do this. We'll break it down with $1,000. Let's say you're getting $1,000 a month and you have to come up with a budget for $1,000. We talked about this in the activity, but I'll just reiterate it here. There's a method called the pay yourself method, pay yourself first method, or the 10-10-10 rule. If you get $1,000, you're going to take 10%, put it into savings, 10% put it in investing, and then 10% and put it in tithing, okay? Before you take care of any other bills or expenses, okay? So then now you're paying yourself first. You have something that's growing for your financial future and your investments. Savings, you're putting something away for a rainy day, which we'll talk about in a second. And then you're putting away something where you're giving back or contributing with the tithing, right? And we talked about the importance of those in the last activity. These things are orange because this is the same thing. This 20 and this 10 is the same thing. So 70% of that money, or $700 in this example, needs to take care of all your expenses, your groceries, your living expenses, everything, right? Or let's say you want to treat yourself and have some play money. You could take 20% of that, and then all your needs need to be under 50%. So everything needs to cover $500, and then you could treat yourself with leisure and everything for the $200. Make sense so far? Okay. Saving and investing, you're going to put 10 and 10% there, tithing and charity. The reason why I put this in red, Savings Emergency Fund, is because Mr. Mike talked about this already, how you want to have something put away for emergency fund for 3 to 6 months, sometimes even up to a year. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to, not today, but I want you to write out your dream lifestyle. Where would you live? What kind of car would you drive? How many trips would you take a year? If you had all the money in the world, what would you want your life to look like? Now, once you have your lifestyle, how much does it cost per month for that lifestyle? Now you're like, oh, if I want to live this type of life, this is how much it costs each month. And you're going to come up with a budget for your dream lifestyle, okay? So now, if 50% of that money has to take care of that lifestyle, now you know how much you need to earn or how much you need to be bringing in each month, okay? And then your savings and emergency fund, you want to take that monthly number and multiply it times 6. That's how much you should have in your emergency fund. So if you're ever hit with an apartment fire or a layoff or something medically happens where you can't work anymore, now you have that money that you could pull from each month for at least 6 months to where you're not like, what do I do now? Because I don't have any more money coming in because you had that money set aside. Does that make sense? Okay? I'm a personal example of what can happen at any given moment, at any given time, and I didn't have an emergency fund. Luckily, my wife's parents cleared out a spare bedroom, and we didn't really have to pay them for rent or anything like that. We were able to manage, okay? But I don't want you to be in that situation. Next slide. If you need to automate your budget, if you already have a bank account, these apps will automatically do it. And you'll have a copy of this presentation because I know it's a lot of information, but you'll be able to dissect it and go over and take your time. I just want you to be able to see the resources. Next one. Okay, Fiverr, Upwork. If you have any skills with anything, voiceovers, graphic design, anything like that, you can go on Fiverr and people around the world will pay you for that skill. Go on there and just type things in there and just see, oh, I can do this, and see how much people will pay you for that skill, okay? This is something you can do at any age, right? If you have to be a certain age to create the account, get permission for your parents to create the account, and they'll tie it to a bank account, and they'll be able to collect the money and give it to you, okay? And then these are certain certifications you can get with Google. Next slide. Passive income ideas for students. We're just going to go through these real quick. We don't have time to go over each of them, but I want you to be aware of what's possible. You can create workout online courses, books, ebooks. With ChatGPT, it can give you all the ideas now, right? That's AI. It can give you all the ideas to come up with the framework for like a book or a course or something that people will pay a lot of money for. So, any of y'all play basketball? Right? Okay. So y'all know what AAU is, right? AAU basketball. Okay, perfect. So there's some people that want to make the AAU basketball team, right? And they don't know where to start, how to make the team. But if you've already done it, you can walk through each step on how to make the team. Or if you play for your school, things like that, there's people around the world that will buy your ebook just to learn what to do. This is what you need to do. This is who you need to talk to. This is what you need to do. This is where you need to go, okay? Or if you have a course, there's a lot of people that will pay for the course. And that's just one example, okay? You can go to the next one. I'm just going to show you this. A lot of people don't know what credit is or how it works. Credit is usually broken down into percentages or data points. Some people think that if they pull your credit, which is what this new credit stands for, their credit score is going to go down. But that's only 10% of their credit score. If you're borrowing money from somebody, especially a financial institution, that makes up almost 200 points of your credit score. Your credit score ranges from 300 to 850. just by not making on-time payments each month, your credit score will go down almost 200 points. Okay? So look at this. That's 200, that's 300, that's what? 350 points right there. If you don't, credit utilization mean like if you have $1,000 worth of credit and you max out all your cards and you're at $1,000, then your credit score is gonna go down almost 200 points. So as long as you keep your credit score, pay off your balance each month, and you make your payments on time, your credit score will go up, okay? Next slide. That's how you could check your credit. Millionaire by 50, rule of 72. Mike talked about that earlier. We can go to the next slide. So here it is. Just with this example, if you put $500 away into, let's say, the S&P 500, which are the top 500 stock companies, or the top 500 companies on the stock exchange, stock market, after 30 years, you would have gained over $1 million just by putting $500 away. Because that thing called compound interest, where your money's just doubling on top of doubling on top of doubling, and you're just putting $500 away, then your money, and this is S&P 500, over the last 40 years, it's grown over 10%. And that's just slow and steady, but it'll grow over time. Next one. And then own what you own. If you buy Nike shoes, own some Nike stock. If you, well, I use this example to parents. If you buy Starbucks, own some Starbucks stock. If anything that you own and you spend your money on as a consumer and you're purchasing it, if it's good enough for you to spend your own hard-earned money on that, own some of the company. And that's what happens when you own a stock, you own part of the company. And then some of these companies, they'll give out money every time they make profits, and that money is considered a dividend. So as you have ownership in the company, they're saying, as a thank you for you owning part of our company, you get some of the profit shares, or you get some of the money on top of that, okay? So that's just something to consider. I'm not telling you which ones to invest in, but I just want you to think outside the box as far as putting your money somewhere that can grow without your effort, okay? And then the last one. So there's a book I want you to consider. Dan Sheeks, he actually spoke to a group of students I worked with a couple weeks ago. He wrote a book called First to a Million, and it's specifically for young people that are in pretty much middle school, high school, and plan to go to college. And he shows them how they can retire early, thinking now as a young person. So if it's, instead of waiting until like 65 years old to retire, some of his students that went through the book, one of the things he talks about is like when you graduate college, if your first house is a multi-family house, meaning like this is a fourplex. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 families that live in this building. You can own this building, live in one of the units, and then rent out the other 3. Now the other 3 units are paying you rent, and now you live in rent-free. You're not paying anything for housing because now you own the property. So over time, the value of that house is gonna go up. You get all the benefits of being a homeowner, and people are paying you rent each month. And guess what? You don't even have to collect the rent yourself. You can pay a property management company to collect the rents, cut the yard, do all of that, and now they don't even know you own the house because they're paying it to the property management company. But now you've leveraged a way to build passive income over time. And that's one of the things he teaches the students. He teaches the students about investing in the stock market, things like that. But these are just different ideas to where if you don't want to do any of the other passive income streams I talked about, this is long term, okay? And I believe that's it. Okay, so that was a lot of information. Oh, yes, hand, yes. Yes, that's a great question. So she said, can you also Airbnb your own home? So those are considered short-term rentals. So sometimes you could rent out a room, or if you have a spare, they call it it's an extra house on the property. There's some people that actually have that, and they can rent out the property that's on their land, and they're paying you rent. Okay, so that's a great question. Or if you have another room, and some apartment complexes, they don't mind if you sublease it out. Some do, but you can let them pay rent. Okay, and so that's a great question. So there's just different ways that you can leverage something that you already own or have and make money. So the purpose for this presentation is I want you to think outside the box of making or earning more money outside of the job that you're going to have. Okay. And then I didn't even go into it, but there's people that have YouTube channels. One girl, she has a YouTube channel where every month she does a new decoration in her dorm room, and she's getting she has hundreds of thousands of followers, and YouTube is paying her each month. There's some of these podcasts that you might watch, or some of these makeup tutorials, right? You ever seen those hey, we got this makeup tutorial, and we're gonna do this is what we're using today. You all ever seen those, right? Now, if you ever listen or pay attention, they say, if you want a link to this product, this eyeliner, click the link in the description below. Every time somebody purchases an eyeliner or whatever from that link, they're getting paid a commission. They're paying them a percentage of everybody that purchases that product. So that's why they do those videos for free on YouTube. Or they might be like, this video was sponsored by X and X and X, right? Now, those companies are paying her or him money for those eyeballs, okay? So that's how you can leverage something that you're already doing. Or if you have an IG following, people will pay you thousands of dollars to do a story or a post or anything like that. So a lot of you use social media already, so you can leverage social media to gain more money, okay? So that was it. Hopefully everybody gained new information today. Yes? Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much, Chris. Oh my goodness. All right, just thank you for just opening our eyes to just so many other ways of just than what we already know. So, I mean, I'm sure we have a lot more questions than answers at the moment, but this was just to plant the seeds. And let's ask questions. We have all these amazing adults that came, so can we just give them a hand? Thank you so much, everyone. The best thing is, besides Chris, everyone is here in Chicagoland area. And we just want to continue to meet with you guys. And these are adults that want to invest in our young people.